Well, hello and good morning, and welcome to another episode of Shed Customs. And today we're going to be doing another episode on the Rudge oil tank. And here it is. So the stage we've got to now, if you've been following along, we've burnt up the main oil tank. We've mounted some fittings. We've put a filter fitting in. And now I've got to weld on the top. And then once I've welded on the top, which I'm going to seam weld around the outside. I've then got the, let's get the right one. Side plate, and then we're going to have the ears coming up for fillers. So let's get on with that, and I'll show you what we're up to. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is make sure that the top is an exact fit for the main body of the oil tank, and then I'm gonna tack it round. So this bit is probably the most crucial part of the process, just getting the overlap the same all the way. Just makes it so much easier to weld. You can tweak it once we've got a tack on it, but and then not that anyone's interested, but basically we're using a TIG to weld this. So I've got a Parwell TIG torch, or TIG machine. Right, okay, let's see what we can do. So like I said, I'm going to tack it on. Let's use something for a bit of weight, just to hold it down, to try and get the gap to an absolute minimum. And then the plan's going to be, I'll tack it in as many places as I can, so it doesn't distort when you're doing effectively a complete seam weld. Right, so seam welded around the top. Trying to get a nice bit of penetration from the other side, so it's definitely glued together. And now I'm going to set to it with the angle grinder with a flappy disc on it, and we'll give it a bit of a clean up. What are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? You going to say hello? Go on then. You going to say hello? Okay, so after a good 10-15 minutes of angle grinding, I've taken off all the high spots, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a good old file, and I'm going to file a nice radius around the outside, or at least break the corner and make it look like it's ready to go. So next up, I'm going to be taking this piece of 2-inch steel pipe and chopping it to make the necks. Here we've got the new Coventry movement caps, or the bases if you want, which, as you can see, you've got the 2 pins, and that's how it latches. And then here's the cap. So you've got the Coventry, and then the M, and then the C, the Coventry Movement Company, and there's a patent number, and then you've got the handle. So there's nothing on the other side of that at the moment, but basically you've got a flat piece of steel which goes across, and it's like a quarter of a turn, and it latches underneath those 2 pegs and shuts the cap. And obviously you've got this hinge arrangement which then goes into that hinge arrangement, which has got a very fine threaded bolt that's going to fit through there. So I just thought I'd show you what we were talking about when we talked about Coventry movement. Let's see how we get on when we start chopping the tube up. Right, so I've been busy with a hacksaw. As you can see, chopped up the angles. There's another one yet to go, but I tried the method of making a template, which, to be fair, worked pretty well. So you've got to start with something to begin with that you know is right, and then literally I just used a piece of paper and wrapped it around and sellotaped it back together again, and then used a pair of scissors and cut round the edge that matched the angle, and then slipped it over the other tube, and then used that as a guide for the angle grinder. So don't know if you've ever used that before. There's plenty of stuff on the internet showing you how to do it, but that worked pretty well. But like I say, you've got to have something you need to know what you want at the beginning, although I'm sure you could, if you're clever enough, you could probably print something out on a printer which would allow you to do that. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. So basically that fits on the side of the tank, and then this one is now got to have another piece of tube which is going to come up upright, which I can't hold and show you all that with one hand. So let me come back and I'll show you that once I've cut it out. So just in case that wasn't sort of that didn't make sense what I was talking about, so basically I've made that angle, and I've got a piece of paper which I've rolled up into a tube, and then all I'm going to do to copy that tube is just to go around with a pair of scissors, cut them right against the edge of the metal, and now I've got a perfect copy. I can slide that back on the other end or wherever, and then literally use that as a guide for my angle grinder. So hopefully that makes sense. Seems to work okay anyway. So last part cut. As you can see, quite obvious, this part, because when you cut something on an angle it gets longer. So what I'm going to do, I've sneaked a little bit at the front, so it's not quite lined up, but that will blend in nicely when I've done the weld. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some relief cuts around the front, and I'm going to dress that in and weld that in. But the first part of the puzzle is to actually get it tacked together, so obviously I've got 2 of those, so I'll get on and weld those now. Anybody would think I'd realise that was real. Okay, first lesson, don't tack near the nose tack. Right, lots of stuff here about how not to do it. Right, okay, time for some skullduggery.